Among the notorious Mongols biker gang, one name makes even the toughest members shiver with fear: Scott Jr. Erickson. This isn't just another biker story. Junior's path from privileged kid to the most feared Mongols president is absolutely mind-blowing.
Among the notorious members of the Mongols motorcycle club, there's one name that sends chills down even the toughest spines: Scott Jr. Erickson, a man feared by rivals, respected by brothers, and remembered as one of the most relentless leaders the outlaw biker world has ever seen.
Even Hell's Angels were terrified of crossing him. What dark secrets turned this normal teenager into a legend that law enforcement couldn't break? The truth behind his rise to power will shock you to your core. Buckle up, this story is wild. Early life, the making of a Mongol.
Well, you know, I came from a really good family. I was adopted. My father worked for the federal government. He was a civil servant for the Navy. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and I came from a good family. I mean, it was a good family. But as I grew up, something inside of me kept drawing me, as you would say, across the tracks. I was drawn to a suburb more than where we lived in the upper class. Yeah. And so I ran with a bunch of guys from junior high school in the suburbs, a little rowdy crew, young guys, and tearing up some stuff. And that's kind of how I was when I was young.
What got you into the motorcycles?
Well, what happened with the motorcycle thing is we had moved to Hawaii. My dad had transferred out there, and he was working at Pearl Harbor at the time.
Wow.
And we lived in a little town called Kailua on the windward side. I was just starting to get into bikes, you know, and I started buying the Harley, like the motorcycle books, Easy Rider.
Oh, okay.
And,
they had them out there?
Yeah, they had them out there, and there was actually clubs out there at the time. We used to watch clubs as we were training.
Scott Erickson came into this world back in 1960 in San Diego, California. And here's something that might surprise you. The guy who would later become one of the most feared bikers in America actually grew up in a pretty nice neighborhood. Junior wasn't raised in some tough, crime-filled area. He had a decent family life in one of San Diego's better areas, but don't go thinking he was some soft, rich kid, far from it. Even with his comfortable upbringing, Junior still found ways to get into the kind of trouble teenagers always seem to find. He was smoking weed with his buddies and getting into fights across San Diego. Nothing too crazy, just regular teenage stuff, but it gave a hint of what was coming. The moment that changed everything for Junior happened in 1974. Picture this, a 14-year-old kid out fishing at a lake with his family, just a normal day. Then this intimidating biker rolls up, covered in Mongols MC patches, looking like he just rode out of hell itself. Most kids would have been scared. Junior, he was fascinated. That single encounter planted a seed in his mind that would grow into an obsession with the biker lifestyle. By the time he hit 16, Junior already had a reputation for being tough. He played football with a mean streak and wasn't the type to back down from a fight, ever. His family even moved to Hawaii for his last couple of high school years, but that island paradise couldn't tame his wild spirit. While other teens were dreaming about college, Junior had his mind on distant adventures. Hawaii, Paris, Jamaica, even Africa. The kid had wanderlust, but deep down, that image of the Mongol biker at the lake never left him. Junior wasn't just about fighting, though. He and his friends set up their own boxing club, and Junior turned out to have serious talent. He started competing in amateur matches and never lost a single fight. That natural fighting ability would serve him well in the world he was about to enter, a world where respect is earned through strength and the willingness to use it. When high school ended, Junior headed back to San Diego. He got a construction job, working his hands to the bone, saving every dollar he could. Why? Because he was laser-focused on one thing: getting his own motorcycle. When his honest savings weren't enough, Junior started selling weed to make up the difference. By 1978, at just 18 years old, he finally had enough to buy his dream: a Harley-Davidson Superglide. That bike was his ticket into a whole new world. Junior started cruising around town, soaking up biker culture, learning the unwritten rules of the road. He quickly learned about the bloody turf war happening between the Hells Angels and the Mongols for control of California. People were dying in this conflict. It wasn't some game. But instead of scaring him off, this danger only pulled Junior deeper in. This wasn't just riding motorcycles. This was brotherhood, loyalty, and real-life danger. And Junior was ready for all of it. The call of brotherhood, becoming a Mongol.
Scott Junior Erickson, Mongols MC.
What kept me motivated
Engines rumbling when the pack approaches.
is the dream.
Everyone looks. One of the most notorious MCs in the world. But how did this happen? We take you to San Diego, where Junior's story begins. How did he become a member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club?
A club where unconditional love for a brother comes before money.
At 19, Junior faced a common problem. He was too young to get into most bars and clubs. Imagine being this tough kid with a Harley, looking the part, but still getting turned away at the door. It was frustrating as hell for him. But then came a chance meeting that changed everything. Junior ran into a full-patch Mongol who saw something in the young rider. This Mongol told Junior something that stuck with him: ride with us, and you can go anywhere. It wasn't just about getting into bars. It was an invitation to a whole new life without limits. Junior started hanging out with the Mongols on weekend rides, getting a taste of their wild freedom. He wasn't a member yet, but he was getting closer to that world every day. After proving he wasn't some poser or undercover cop, Junior got the golden ticket, an invitation to the San Diego Mongols clubhouse. Walking into that clubhouse was like entering another universe. Even though he wasn't wearing the patch yet, Junior felt something powerful. Brotherhood. These weren't just guys who rode bikes together. They fought together, partied together, and would die for each other without hesitation. The wild parties, the freedom of the open road, the sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. Junior was hooked immediately. But beneath all the beer and good times was a darker reality Junior quickly had to face. The outlaw biker life wasn't just some rebel fantasy. It came with real enemies and real danger. Riding with the Mongols meant taking on their enemies as your own. And the Mongols had plenty of enemies, from rival clubs to law enforcement to ordinary people who just looked at them the wrong way. The club members didn't go anywhere without being armed, knives, guns, whatever they needed to protect themselves. They lived with the constant threat of violence, but instead of making them paranoid, it made them fearless. Junior saw this, and instead of backing away, he leaned in. He already had natural strength and fighting ability, and he was hitting the gym regularly, building himself into a human tank. Despite being young, he had the physical presence of someone you wouldn't want to mess with. Junior threw himself into club activities with total dedication. Bar fights. He was first in. Collections from people who owed money. Send Junior. Whatever needed doing, he was your guy. The older Mongols noticed this kid's loyalty and fearlessness. He wasn't just hanging around for the parties, he was living the life completely. His dedication earned him a special honor. Junior became the youngest prospect in Mongols history. Being a prospect isn't easy in any outlaw club. It's basically being a servant and punching bag for full members while proving your worth. But Junior took everything they threw at him and asked for more. His unwavering loyalty to the club and its members eventually earned him what he wanted most, his full patch. He was officially a Mongol, but reality hit hard and fast. Within his first year wearing the patch, Junior watched 3 fellow Mongols die. This wasn't a game anymore. This was life and death, and it wasn't long before Junior himself was in the middle of a deadly confrontation with a rival gang. When the smoke cleared, there were bodies on the ground, and the media was painting the Mongols as cold-blooded killers. With heat coming down hard, Junior had to run. He found refuge with Mongols' brothers in Tulsa, using a fake name and laying low. But soon news reached him that some of his brothers had been arrested back in San Diego. The pressure was building, and Junior spent 6 tense months hiding out in Oklahoma, constantly looking over his shoulder. When he learned there was a murder warrant with his name on it, Junior made a decision that showed what he was really made of. Instead of running forever, he decided to go back to San Diego and face the music. The club stood behind him, providing lawyers who managed to get him a plea deal for voluntary manslaughter instead of murder. He'd still do time, but not life. And here's where Junior proved his worth beyond any doubt. Even though he was the trigger man, he refused to let his brothers take the fall with him. He wouldn't snitch, wouldn't cut deals that hurt the club. He took his punishment like a man, protecting his brothers even as he headed to prison. This wasn't just loyalty, it was the Mongols' code personified in one young biker willing to sacrifice his freedom for his brothers. Rising through the ranks, the making of a president.
Junior started joining weekend runs. Eventually, he was invited to their San Diego clubhouse. He wasn't patched yet, but he felt the brotherhood instantly. The wild parties, the loyalty, the danger, it all felt like home. But this life wasn't just fast bikes and loud music. It was violent, deadly, and unforgiving. Riding with the Mongols meant adopting their enemies as your own. Junior, armed with an imposing physique and raw determination, dove headfirst into that world. He fought in bar brawls, collected debts, and earned a reputation as a tough, loyal brother. Soon he became the youngest prospect in club history. He earned his patch through blood, dedication, and fearlessness. But membership came with a cost. Within his first year, 3 Mongols were killed. And then, Junior found himself in a fatal altercation with a rival gang. The fight led to casualties and sparked a media frenzy. The Mongols were once again blamed, and Junior was on the run. Fleeing the heat, he hid in Tulsa, Oklahoma, under a fake identity. But when he heard that several of his brothers had been arrested, Junior did what few would: he turned himself in. Charged in connection to a murder, he took a plea deal for voluntary manslaughter. Though he pulled the trigger, he refused to let his brothers take the fall. It was a move that cemented his loyalty in the outlaw code. After serving his time, Junior came back harder and more respected than ever. He quickly climbed the ranks, vice president of the San Diego chapter, and then national president.
Even locked up, Junior stayed connected to his Mongol brothers. Prison walls couldn't keep him out of club business. He was too valuable, too respected after showing he'd take the fall without dragging others down. While most guys might drift away from the life during a prison bid, Junior was planning his comeback. The day Junior walked out of prison, he was a different man, harder, smarter, and more determined than ever. His loyalty during his time inside had earned him serious respect. The club hadn't forgotten him. In fact, they were waiting with open arms and big plans. Junior wasted no time getting back into Mongol's business, and as soon as his parole ended, he rocketed up through the ranks. First, he became vice president of the San Diego chapter. This wasn't just handed to him, he earned it through his unwavering dedication to the club. When other guys were at home with their families or sleeping off hangovers, Junior was handling club business, expanding territories, and making sure the Mongols' name commanded respect on the streets. His work ethic was relentless. This wasn't just a club to him, it was his life's purpose. What happened next was almost unheard of in outlaw biker culture. Junior became the national president of the Mongols at an incredibly young age. Most club presidents are older guys with decades of experience, but Junior's combination of street smarts, loyalty, and sheer force of will put him in the top position while many of his peers were still working their way up. His first term as national president wasn't easy. The Mongols were in the middle of violent territory disputes with rival clubs, especially the Hells Angels. Under Junior's leadership, the Mongols weren't backing down an inch. In fact, they became more aggressive, expanding their reach and making it clear that they weren't afraid of anyone. Not rival clubs, not law enforcement. Nobody. "We don't ask for respect," Junior told his chapters during his first national meeting as president. "We demand it, and if someone doesn't give it to us, we take it from them." This wasn't just tough talk. Junior backed it up with action, personally leading rides into contested territories and staring down rivals who thought the Mongols might be vulnerable under new leadership. During one particularly violent clash early in his presidency, Junior found himself in the middle of a full-scale biker war. The brutality of this conflict put the Mongols on front pages across the country. Most club presidents might have laid low after this kind of heat, but not Junior. He doubled down, using the publicity to grow the Mongols' fearsome reputation. In the outlaw biker world, fear equals respect. and Junior made sure the Mongols were the most respected and feared club on the road. Despite his total dedication to the Mongols, Junior's personal life was falling apart. He tried several times to step back from the club for a quieter life, maybe with a wife, kids, a regular job. But the pull of the Brotherhood was too strong. Every time he tried to walk away, something pulled him back in. A brother in trouble, a club crisis, or just the simple fact that normal life seemed boring after the adrenaline rush of the Mongols' lifestyle. By 35, Junior had served as national president multiple times, each time bringing the club to new heights of power and influence. He wasn't just running the club, he was shaping it in his image, disciplined, fearless, and absolutely loyal to the patch and what it represented. Under his leadership, the Mongols weren't just another biker gang. They were an institution with chapters popping up across the country and even internationally. Junior was obsessed with making sure the club stayed true to its principles. When some members wanted to get sloppy with drug use or bring unnecessary heat, Junior put them in line quick. The club wasn't about individual glory, it was about the strength of the whole. Many outlaw clubs fall apart because of internal beef and ego trips, but Junior kept the Mongols unified with an iron fist. But the higher they rose, the more attention they got from law enforcement. In 1998, what started as a simple bar fight ended with Junior in handcuffs. He claimed self-defense, and witnesses backed his story. But the cops saw their chance to take down the notorious Mongols president. You could almost see the smiles on their faces as they arrested the man they'd been trying to catch for years. Junior fought the charges with the same determination he brought to everything else. But unlike his battles in the biker world, the legal system wasn't playing by rules he understood. The deck was stacked against him from the start. Despite his claims of self-defense, the system was determined to make an example of the Mongols' leader. The man who had led the Mongols to new heights was now facing another stint behind bars, but his influence on the club was too deep to be erased by prison walls. Building a criminal empire beyond just bikers. The Mongols' MC isn't just guys riding motorcycles and hanging out at bars. Under leaders like Junior, they built what law enforcement calls a criminal empire spanning across the country and even internationally. They didn't just stumble into this. It was a deliberate strategy to grow power, make money, and expand their influence. The club's illegal activities are extensive and well organized. Drug trafficking became a major source of income, with the Mongols controlling distribution networks in cities across the US. They weren't just small-time dealers. They were moving serious weight and making connections with major drug cartels, especially those with Hispanic ties, since many Mongols members have Mexican-American backgrounds. Money laundering became necessary to hide all this illegal cash. The club set up legitimate-looking businesses, repair shops, tattoo parlors, security companies, that served as fronts for cleaning dirty money. Junior and other leaders understood that cash alone wasn't enough. They needed to look legitimate on paper to avoid financial investigations. Theft was another revenue stream, especially motorcycle theft. Think about it, who knows motorcycles better than bikers? Mongols members would either steal bikes themselves or work with professional thieves who would bring them stolen motorcycles. These bikes would be quickly dismantled in chop shops, with parts sold separately to make them impossible to trace. Some high-end bikes would be given new VIN numbers and shipped overseas where they could be sold for top dollar without questions. Extortion became a specialty, particularly targeting businesses in areas where the Mongols had a strong presence. Bar owners, strip club managers, and even legitimate businesses would pay protection money to ensure they didn't have problems with the club. It wasn't presented as extortion, of course, just friendly businessmen offering security services. But everyone understood the real deal: pay up or face the consequences. Violence wasn't just a side effect of their activities, it was a tool used deliberately to maintain control and respect. The Mongols earned their reputation as one of America's most violent clubs through countless assaults, beatings, and even killings. Junior himself was known to personally handle situations that required a direct physical message. This willingness to use brutal force made people think twice before crossing the club. What's especially disturbing is the racially motivated violence that became part of the Mongols' history. Despite having many Hispanic members, The club has been involved in attacks targeting African-American gang members and even innocent civilians of color. This dark aspect of the club's activities made them particularly notorious in certain communities and added another dimension to law enforcement's interest in shutting them down. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms, ATF, didn't hold back when describing the Mongols. They labeled them the most violent and dangerous OMG in America. OMG stands for Outlaw Motorcycle Gang, and being at the top of that list isn't something that happens by accident. It's earned through years of criminal activity that stands out even among other notorious biker gangs. What made the Mongols particularly effective was their organization. This wasn't just random criminality. Under leadership like Junior's, the club operated with military-like discipline. Members knew the chain of command, understood their roles, and followed orders without question. This structure made them more dangerous than less organized criminal groups because they could coordinate complex operations across multiple locations. The club even developed its own secret communication methods to avoid detection. Terms like Code 55 would signal members to immediately remove or hide anything showing their Mongols affiliation. These code words and hidden messages allowed members to communicate right under the noses of law enforcement. Looking like regular bikers one minute and disappearing into the crowd the next made them especially difficult for police to track and monitor. At one point, the Mongols faced an astounding 270 warrants simultaneously, a testament to how widespread their criminal activities had become. Law enforcement was throwing everything they had at the club. They even tried to ban the Mongols from wearing their own patches and emblems, a move targeting the very identity of the club. Although courts eventually overturned this as unconstitutional, it showed how desperate authorities were to break the Mongols' power and influence. When the courts lifted the ban on wearing Mongols' patches, the club was hit with a $500,000 fine instead. To most organizations, $500,000 would be crippling. To the Mongols, it was just the cost of doing business. The fine was paid, and the Mongols continued operating without missing a beat. This response sent a clear message about the financial resources the club had at its disposal. But all this criminal activity and violence came with a heavy price. Members faced constant risk of arrest, injury, or death. Many Mongols, including some of Junior's closest friends, ended up dead or serving long prison sentences. Yet the club never had trouble recruiting new members. The allure of brotherhood, power, and the outlaw lifestyle continued to attract men willing to risk everything for the patch, especially when they saw leaders like Junior who embodied the Mongols' ideal of living free, no matter the consequences. Blood rivalry, Mongols versus Hell's Angels.
But 4 times, helping turn the Mongols into a global powerhouse. Under Junior's leadership, the club expanded beyond the US, gaining international recognition. He wasn't just muscle, he was strategy. He enforced the code, protected the brand, and crushed enemies without hesitation. But his rise wasn't without consequences. The Mongols were constantly at war, especially with their oldest rivals, the Hell's Angels. Violent clashes escalated under Junior's watch. His reputation became that of a man who wouldn't back down, no matter the odds. In 1998, a bar altercation led to Junior's arrest. He claimed self-defense, but the authorities saw a chance to lock up the Mongols' most dangerous figure. The arrest sparked a lengthy legal battle and another stint behind bars. Still, Junior remained a central figure in the club, even from prison. Letters, messages, and orders made their way out. His influence remained untouched.
The war between the Mongols and the Hell's Angels isn't just some minor beef. It's one of the longest, bloodiest rivalries in outlaw biker history. These two powerhouse clubs have been at each other's throats for decades, leaving a trail of bodies, prison sentences, and broken lives in their wake. And Junior found himself right in the middle of this war during his time as president. The bad blood started back in the late 1960s when the Mongols first formed. The Hell's Angels already saw California as their territory, and they didn't take kindly to this new club setting up shop in their backyard. Making things worse, the Mongols began recruiting Hispanic members, something the predominantly white Hell's Angels weren't doing at the time. This racial component added another layer of hostility to an already tense situation. What might have started as territorial disputes quickly escalated into full-blown hatred between the clubs. By the time Junior rose to power in the Mongols, the rivalry was already soaked in blood. But instead of trying to calm things down, Junior embraced the conflict. In his view, the Mongols would never back down from anyone, especially the Hells Angels. One of the most infamous clashes happened in 2002 at Harrah's Laughlin Casino in Nevada. What started as a chance encounter between members of the rival clubs in the casino quickly turned into a massive brawl involving guns, knives, and whatever weapons the bikers could grab. When the dust settled, 3 bikers lay dead and many more were wounded. The violence was so extreme that regular casino patrons were diving under tables and fleeing in terror. The Laughlin riot, as it came to be known, put both clubs under intense law enforcement scrutiny. 2 Hells Angels members eventually received 2-year prison sentences for their roles in the bloody casino fight. But the legal consequences did nothing to cool the hatred between the clubs. If anything, it made it worse, with each side blaming the other for bringing the heat down on them. In 2008, the rivalry claimed another high-profile victim when Hells Angels president Mark Papa Guadagno was murdered in San Francisco. Mongols member Christopher Ablett later surrendered to authorities for the killing. The targeting of such a high-ranking Hells Angels member showed just how serious this conflict had become. This wasn't random violence, but calculated strikes against the leadership of the rival club. Later that same year, another clash in Las Vegas left 3 Mongols hospitalized. The details of what sparked this particular fight weren't clear, but they didn't need to be. At this point, just seeing members of the rival club was enough to trigger violence. Both sides were living in a constant state of war readiness, never knowing when or where the next confrontation would erupt. Junior understood that this rivalry wasn't just about territory anymore. It had become fundamental to the identity of both clubs. The Mongols took pride in being the club that wasn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with the Hells Angels, who had long been considered the most powerful outlaw motorcycle club in the world. For many Mongols, their willingness to battle the Angels was a point of fierce pride. The violence wasn't limited to club members either. Associates, friends, and sometimes even family of club members could find themselves targeted. This expanded the circle of fear and hatred, pulling more people into a conflict that seemed to have no end in sight. Both clubs understood that showing weakness wasn't an option. Any attack had to be answered with equal or greater force. Law enforcement agencies tried various strategies to stop the violence. They infiltrated both clubs, set up special task forces, and pursued RICO cases against members. But despite all these efforts, the hatred between the Mongols and Hells Angels continued to simmer and occasionally boil over into public violence. What made Junior particularly feared in this ongoing war was his strategic thinking combined with absolute willingness to use violence when necessary. He wasn't just a brawler, he was a calculated leader who understood power dynamics. Under his leadership, the Mongols didn't just react to Hells Angels' provocations, they proactively established dominance in contested areas. For Junior and the Mongols, the rivalry with the Hells Angels wasn't just about criminal enterprises or territory, it was existential. The conflict defined who they were as a club. Being willing to stand up to the Hells Angels, regardless of the consequences, became a core part of the Mongols' identity. This wasn't a fight they could walk away from, even if they wanted to. The blood spilled between these 2 clubs has left lasting scars on both organizations. But it also cemented the Mongols' reputation as one of the most fearsome biker clubs in America. When even Hells Angels members speak of the Mongols with a certain respect for their willingness to engage in violence, you know that reputation has been earned the hard way, through years of brutal conflict where neither side was willing to back down an inch. Law enforcement's war on the Mongols. When you're labeled America's most dangerous outlaw motorcycle gang by federal authorities, you can bet the full weight of law enforcement is coming down on you. That's exactly what happened to the Mongols during Junior's time with the club. Police agencies across the country weren't just watching the Mongols, they were actively working to destroy them. Operation Black Rain in 2008 was the biggest blow against the Mongols in the club's history. 4 ATF agents managed to infiltrate the club, spending years living as Mongols, attending meetings, participating in club activities, and gathering evidence. Think about how hard that would be. These undercover agents had to convince hardened bikers that they were the real deal while wearing wires and reporting back to their handlers. One slip could mean death. The operation culminated in a massive raid that saw 38 Mongols arrested, including their then national president, Ruben Doc Cavazos. The club was thrown into chaos as their leadership was decimated in a single swoop. What made it worse was the realization that guys they'd accepted as brothers, ridden with and trusted, were actually federal agents. The paranoia and suspicion this created within the club can't be overstated. Suddenly, every new face was viewed with extreme skepticism. The feds didn't just want to arrest individual Mongols, they wanted to destroy the club's very identity. In an unprecedented move, authorities attempted to seize ownership of the Mongols' trademark and logo through forfeiture laws. This would have made it illegal for any Mongol to wear their own patches or display their insignia. Imagine being a biker club that can't even wear its own colors. It would have been a death blow to the organization. This attack on their patches hit at something deeper than just clothing. For clubs like the Mongols, the patch represents everything: brotherhood, identity, status. Members literally fight and die for the right to wear those colors. The government understood this, which is why they targeted the emblem itself. They weren't just trying to put individual criminals in prison, they were trying to erase the Mongols as an organization. Fortunately for the club, a California judge later overturned this ban, citing constitutional rights like freedom of association. The court basically said that even outlaw bikers have First Amendment rights. Instead of the patch ban, the club was hit with a $500,000 fine, a large sum, but one that allowed the Mongols to keep their identity intact. For the club, paying the money was an easy choice compared to losing their colors. Law enforcement didn't just rely on big operations like Black Rain. They also used more traditional tactics like surveillance, informants, and targeted investigations. The Mongols found themselves under constant police scrutiny. Their clubhouses watched, their phones potentially tapped, and their movements tracked. Members had to assume they were being observed at all times, making even routine club business challenging. Police departments in areas with Mongols chapters would often use traffic stops as an excuse to harass club members. Get pulled over with Mongols colors, and you could expect a full vehicle search, ID checks of all riders, and officers looking for any possible violation to write up. This constant low-level harassment was designed to make the biker lifestyle so uncomfortable that members might consider leaving the club. In some jurisdictions, police would pressure bar and restaurant owners not to serve people wearing Mongols colors. They'd visit businesses known to be frequented by club members and suggest that serving Mongols might lead to increased police presence or scrutiny of their business practices. This attempt to make the Mongols unwelcome in public spaces was another way to isolate and pressure the club. Junior and other Mongols leaders adapted to this intense law enforcement pressure by developing counter-surveillance techniques. Club meetings would move around to different locations. Important conversations would happen away from phones or in areas where electronic surveillance would be difficult. The club developed code words and signals to communicate when they suspected police presence. The Mongols also became experts at staying just on the right side of the law when necessary. While individual members might engage in criminal activity, the official club business was conducted with careful attention to legal boundaries. Club records and finances were kept meticulously to avoid giving authorities easy RICO cases. This balance of outlaw activity with legal caution made it harder for authorities to build cases against the entire organization. One of the most serious charges Mongols members faced was the 2014 killing of Pomona Police SWAT team member Sean Diamond during a raid on a Mongols member's home. Mongols member David Martinez was charged with capital murder, though he claimed he fired in self-defense, thinking his home was being invaded. This tragic incident only intensified law enforcement's determination to take down the club. Despite all these efforts, the Mongols have shown remarkable resilience. Each time law enforcement lands a major blow against the club, they recover, rebuild, and continue operating. This resilience is partly due to their strong organizational structure. When leaders go to prison, others step up to fill their positions. It's also due to the deep loyalty the patch inspires in members, who view persecution by law enforcement as just another reason to stand stronger together. Junior's multiple terms as president happened during some of the most intense periods of law enforcement pressure on the club. His leadership during these difficult times helped establish protocols and strategies that allowed the Mongols to survive what might have destroyed a less disciplined organization. His understanding that the club needed to be both tough and smart in dealing with legal challenges proved crucial to the Mongols' continued existence. The Brotherhood Code, loyalty above all else.
Mongols MC.
What kept me motivated
Engines rumbling when the pack approaches.
is the dream.
Everyone looks. One of the most notorious MCs in the world. But how did this happen? We take you to San Diego, where Junior's story begins. How did he become a member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club?
A club where unconditional love for a brother comes before money.
If there's one thing that defines the Mongols and men like Junior, it's their unshakable code of loyalty. This isn't some casual friendship group. It's a brotherhood where members are expected to put the club above everything else in their lives. Family, jobs, personal safety, all of it takes a back seat to the needs of the club and your brothers. Junior embodied this principle throughout his time with the Mongols. Remember when he was facing murder charges? He could have cut a deal, named names, and gotten a lighter sentence. Lots of guys do exactly that when facing serious time, but that thought never even crossed Junior's mind. Instead, he took his punishment without dragging his brothers down with him. That's the Mongols' code in action. Your word is everything, and snitching is the ultimate betrayal. This loyalty starts from day one as a prospect. Wannabe members are tested constantly, not just to see if they're tough enough, but to see if they can be trusted. Can you keep your mouth shut about club business? Will you have your brothers' backs in a fight even if you're outnumbered? Would you take a bullet or do time rather than betray the club? These aren't hypothetical questions in the Mongols' world. They're very real scenarios that members face. The Mongols' official motto is respect few, fear none, but they might as well add loyalty above all to it. This brotherhood mentality creates bonds between members that are often stronger than family ties. Many Mongols come from troubled backgrounds or broken homes, and the club becomes the family they never had. Your brothers are the ones who will visit you in the hospital, bail you out of jail, and support your family if you're locked up. Junior's rise to club leadership wasn't just because he was tough, although he certainly was that. It was because every Mongol knew that Junior would die before betraying a brother. This absolute reliability made him someone members would follow without question. When Junior gave an order, Mongols carried it out, knowing he wouldn't ask them to do anything he wouldn't do himself. The loyalty code extends to how members handle legal troubles. The club has an unwritten rule: you handle your own problems without implicating others. If you get arrested, you keep your mouth shut, period. Members who face charges are expected to stand tall, meaning they take whatever punishment comes their way without cooperating with authorities. Those who do are rewarded with respect, financial support for their families while they're inside, and guaranteed brotherhood when they get out. On the flip side, those who break this code face severe consequences. Snitches and informants aren't just kicked out of the club, they're marked for violence. The Mongols, like most outlaw clubs, have a simple policy toward those who cooperate with law enforcement. They're considered dead men walking. This harsh enforcement of the loyalty code serves as both punishment and deterrent. This brotherhood mentality is reinforced through club rituals and traditions. Mongols don't just ride together, they live in each other's pockets. They celebrate holidays together, attend each other's family events, and share both good times and bad. These shared experiences build the kind of trust that's needed when your life might literally depend on the man riding next to you. Junior was known for reinforcing these bonds during his time as president. He organized runs, group rides, that would take members away from their everyday lives and strengthen their connection to the club. These weren't just joyrides, they were opportunities to reinforce the hierarchy, settle internal issues, and remind everyone what it meant to be a Mongol. The flip side of this intense loyalty to brothers is equally intense hostility toward enemies. The Mongols' code doesn't just tell you who to love, it tells you who to hate. Rival clubs, snitches, and anyone who disrespects the patch becomes an automatic enemy not just of the club, but of every individual member. This creates an us versus them mentality where the outside world is often seen as either potential targets or active threats. This loyalty extends beyond active membership. Even Mongols who leave the club on good terms, which is rare but possible, are expected to maintain certain loyalties. They don't discuss club business with outsiders, they don't cooperate with law enforcement, and they show respect to the patch they once wore. Those who leave on bad terms, however, often find themselves looking over their shoulders for the rest of their lives. Junior's personal dedication to the loyalty code made him a legend within the club. Stories circulate about times he could have saved himself trouble, but chose to protect his brothers instead. This wasn't just talk. Junior proved his loyalty through actions time and again, often at great personal cost. His unwavering commitment to the Brotherhood Code is perhaps his most lasting legacy within the Mongols organization. The legacy of fear and respect, Junior's lasting impact. When you hear the name Scott Jr. Erickson among members of the outlaw biker world, there's an immediate reaction, a mix of respect and fear that few men ever achieve. His legacy isn't just about the positions he held or the years he put in. It's about how he fundamentally changed what it meant to be a Mongol, and how he made even the Hells Angels think twice before crossing his club. Junior's reputation wasn't built on empty threats, it was built on a consistent willingness to back up his words with action. When other club leaders might talk tough but delegate the dirty work, Junior was known for handling serious business personally. There are stories of him showing up alone to confront problems that most men would bring a crew to handle. This hands-on approach to leadership earned him a special kind of respect, the kind that comes from knowing a man isn't asking you to do anything he wouldn't do himself. One particularly legendary story involves Junior confronting a rival club president who had threatened Mongols in his territory. Instead of sending a group of enforcers, Junior allegedly rode alone to the man's clubhouse, walked in without showing any fear, and told everyone inside that they had two choices: make peace with the Mongols or prepare for war. The sheer audacity of this move, walking into the lion's den alone, created a reputation that spread far beyond those who were actually there. The fear Junior inspired wasn't just about physical intimidation, though at his peak he was an imposing figure. It was about the calculated nature of his actions. He wasn't some hothead flying off the handle at the slightest provocation. He was deliberate, strategic, and patient, qualities that make someone far more dangerous than a simple brawler. People feared Junior because they knew crossing him meant dealing with someone who wouldn't just react in the moment, but would plan a response you might not see coming for months. Junior doesn't forget, and he doesn't forgive, was a common warning passed among those who dealt with the Mongols during his era. This wasn't just about physical retribution. Junior was known for finding creative ways to make enemies pay. Sometimes it was economic pressure, sometimes social isolation, sometimes legal complications. This unpredictability made him even more feared than someone who just resorted to violence. During his multiple terms as national president, Junior transformed the Mongols from a California-based club to a global phenomenon. Under his leadership, the Mongols expanded across the United States and even internationally. This expansion wasn't random. It was part of Junior's vision to build a Mongols nation that could stand toe-to-toe with any other club in the world, including the Hells Angels. The fact that the Mongols patch is now recognized and respected, or feared, worldwide is a direct result of Junior's leadership and ambition. Junior didn't just want more chapters, he wanted the right chapters in the right places. He was strategic about expansion, focusing on areas with existing Hispanic populations where recruitment would be easier, or locations that had strategic value in terms of transportation routes or rival club territories. This calculated approach to growth meant the Mongols expanded their influence without stretching their resources too thin. What made Junior particularly effective was his understanding of power. He knew that respect in the outlaw world comes from a combination of factors: violence when necessary, yes, but also intelligence, loyalty, and the ability to make money. He built systems within the club to ensure members could prosper while strengthening the organization as a whole. This business mindset, combined with his willingness to enforce club rules brutally when needed, created a more disciplined and dangerous organization than existed before his leadership. "We're not just bikers," Junior would tell new chapters during their formation. "We're soldiers in an army, businessmen in a corporation, and brothers in a family. Act accordingly." This multifaceted approach to club identity helped transform the Mongols from a simple motorcycle club into a sophisticated organization that could operate on multiple levels simultaneously. Junior's influence extended beyond just the Mongols. His approach to dealing with rival clubs, law enforcement, and internal disputes became a template that other outlaw clubs studied and sometimes emulated. When your enemies start copying your methods, you know you've made an impact. Even as law enforcement pressure increased on outlaw motorcycle clubs throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Junior's strategies for maintaining club cohesion and operations under scrutiny proved remarkably effective. Other clubs noticed how the Mongols managed to maintain their identity and operations despite intense law enforcement pressure. Junior's emphasis on discipline, compartmentalized knowledge, and strict internal security measures became standard practices in many outlaw clubs. His innovations in club structure and operations changed how these organizations function, making them more resilient against both external and internal threats. The respect Junior earned wasn't limited to the criminal world either. There are stories of law enforcement officers who, while dedicated to putting him behind bars, couldn't help but admire his intelligence and leadership abilities. Some have privately admitted that under different circumstances, Junior could have been a successful military leader or business executive. This grudging respect from those tasked with bringing him down speaks to his natural talents and charisma. One federal agent who spent years investigating the Mongols reportedly said if Eriksson had gone into the legitimate business world, he'd be running a Fortune 500 company. The guy has a mind for strategy and people management that you rarely see. This assessment, coming from an enemy, perhaps best captures why Junior was so effective as a leader. He brought exceptional talents to an unexpected arena. Perhaps the most significant part of Junior's legacy is how he's remembered within the Mongols themselves. To younger members who may never have met him personally, Junior is almost a mythical figure, the embodiment of what a true Mongol should be. Stories about him are told at club gatherings, each retelling adding to the legend. He's become larger than life, a standard against which other leaders are measured and usually found wanting. What would Junior do? Became a common question asked when chapters faced difficult decisions or challenges. This simple phrase shows the depth of his influence on the club's collective thinking and decision-making processes, even years after his active leadership ended. Few leaders in any organization achieve this level of lasting impact on institutional culture and values. For members who did know him personally, Junior represents a golden age of the club, a time when the Mongols were at their strongest and most feared. Veterans of the club often start stories with "back when Junior was president," followed by tales of club glory and dominance. This nostalgia isn't just about missing the good old days, it's about recognizing that Junior's leadership took the club to heights it might never reach again. The fear Junior inspired has outlasted his active leadership. Even years later, people who crossed him or the club during his time as president still look over their shoulders. That's the kind of fear that doesn't fade with time, the knowledge that somewhere out there is a man who doesn't forget slights or betrayals, who may one day appear to settle accounts. Whether these fears are justified doesn't matter. The legend itself creates the fear. Beyond the criminal aspects, Junior's legacy includes the brotherhood he helped strengthen. Many Mongols credit him with reinforcing the bonds between members, creating a family that transcends blood relations. In a world where many people feel increasingly isolated, the brotherhood Junior championed offers a sense of belonging and purpose, albeit one outside society's norms and laws. Junior taught us that being a Mongol isn't just about wearing a patch, one longtime member explained. It's about being there for your brothers when no one else is. It's about loyalty that doesn't break, no matter what pressure comes. That's his real legacy. He showed us what brotherhood really means. This emphasis on genuine connection and mutual support, despite its context within a criminal organization, speaks to deeper human needs that mainstream society often fails to fulfill. The true measure of Junior's impact might be this. Decades after he first rose to leadership, his name still carries weight in conversations throughout the biker world. When clubs talk about the Mongols, Junior's name inevitably comes up. His strategies are still studied, his methods still emulated, and his legend still grows. For a man who lived outside the law and conventional society, he achieved something few ever do. A legacy that outlives his active years and continues to influence people he's never even met. The man behind the myth. Scott Jr. Ericsson's story transcends the typical outlaw biker tale, revealing a complex narrative about loyalty, brotherhood, and the search for meaning in an increasingly disconnected world. That fateful encounter with a Mongol at age 14 set him on an extraordinary path, not because circumstances forced him there, but because something within him chose that direction. This deliberate choice makes Junior's story particularly compelling. Born into a decent San Diego neighborhood with opportunities for conventional success, Junior instead gravitated toward the dangerous freedom the Mongols represented. The pull of brotherhood and belonging proved stronger than any attraction normal society offered, stronger even than his instinct for self-preservation. This wasn't the desperate criminality of someone without options. It was a conscious rejection of mainstream values by someone who could have succeeded within them. Junior's leadership combined old-school toughness with surprisingly sophisticated organizational thinking. He understood branding before most legitimate businesses did, recognizing that the Mongols' patch wasn't merely a logo, but a powerful symbol carrying immense weight. His grasp of structured command, financial planning, and strategic expansion transformed the Mongols from a local club into an international organization that even the Hells Angels approached with caution. What made Junior exceptional was how completely he embodied the Mongols' values. He didn't just lead the club, he became inseparable from its identity. When facing murder charges, he refused plea deals that would have implicated others, taking full responsibility instead. In today's world of blame shifting and excuses, there's a certain integrity in his willingness to face consequences, even if attached to actions society condemns. The brotherhood Junior cultivated offers something increasingly rare: absolute belonging. Most guys out there, he once told a reporter, go their whole lives never knowing if anyone would really be there for them when things get bad. Every Mongol knows exactly who has his back, no matter what. How many normal people can say that? This insight reveals the powerful appeal of outlaw brotherhood in our age of superficial connections. Junior's leadership walked the thin line between inspiration and fear. Within the club, his word was law, and defiance could bring severe consequences. Yet members followed him willingly, even devotedly. This paradox, brutal enforcement alongside genuine brotherhood, sits at the heart of outlaw motorcycle culture. Junior mastered this balance, knowing when to inspire through generosity and when to demand obedience through intimidation. The violence surrounding Junior's story cannot be ignored or romanticized. People died, families suffered, and communities were damaged through conflicts involving the Mongols under his leadership. Understanding this violence requires looking beyond simple moral judgments to see the code Junior lived by, where loyalty to brothers supersedes all other considerations, including conventional laws and ethics. Law enforcement threw enormous resources at bringing down the Mongols, infiltration operations, RICO cases, even attempting to seize their trademark and patches. Yet despite these efforts, the club survived and even thrived. Junior's ability to navigate these challenges while maintaining the club's power demonstrated strategic thinking far beyond the dumb biker stereotype. He created systems resilient enough to withstand the loss of leaders, allowing the organization to recover from devastating raids. The legacy Junior created serves as both shield and burden for today's Mongols. The fearsome reputation he helped build makes other clubs think twice before challenging them, but it also ensures law enforcement will never stop pursuing them. This is the double-edged sword of outlaw legend. Respect and notoriety come with a permanent target on your back. In many ways, Junior's life reads like a dark version of the American dream. Not the suburban fantasy with white picket fences, but the older dream about forging your own path regardless of society's expectations. He created his own world, made his own rules, and found success by his own definition. That this path led outside the law doesn't change the fundamentally American nature of this self-invention. Perhaps the most telling legacy isn't found in criminal records or headlines, but in how his name echoes in clubhouses across the country, spoken with a mixture of reverence and awe, like a flawed but powerful king from another era. In the world of outlaw bikers, that might be the closest thing to immortality, becoming a legend in a culture that values strength and loyalty above all else.